All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Alec Harris, and I'm president of GIA Publications. And it is my incredible pleasure and honor to welcome you to this very important webinar. As we were thinking about what important information to talk about today, we couldn't think of anything more important than how to be innovative, especially in this COVID era that we find ourselves in. And who better to talk about this than Tim Sharp, who is the author of Innovation in the Ensemble Arts, the book we published about a year ago. It's one of 4 books we have in a series. One is on innovation, one on relevance, one on mentoring, and one on collaboration. With me this morning is Tim Sharp. Tim is Executive Director of the American Choral Directors Association, which is the national professional association for choral conductors, scholars, students, and the choral music industry. It is my incredible pleasure to welcome you, Tim, and have you get us started. So welcome.
Thank you, Alec. I appreciate the opportunity. It's great to see you again. And let me say for all of us that are logging on right now, how much we appreciate the work of GIA. I look at a crisis like the COVID crisis that we're in right now, and I think, what would we do without a GIA? Because the resources that are on my shelf alone that have come from your publication company have just given me so many tools that I can now go to and try to help our membership. So a big thank you to GIA and for your support in all levels of work. I mean, you make choices about who and what you want to publish and what you want to support, and I think we're privileged that we've gotten your attention, and GIA, of course, is a great leader in this area. So really, thank you.
Thank you. Very, very kind, Tim. Let me just say a little bit about the structure of how this is going to go. We're going to try to leave the last 15 minutes of this hour for questions from all of you, especially around COVID or anything else, and then go ahead and get going right now with kind of talking about those different stages of innovation. So back to you, Tim.
Thanks, Alec. Well, innovation and this topic has been very significant to me for years, ever since I started my work with the American Choral Directors Association. You know, Alec, you were with me when I started my work. You were one of the first industry reps, and you remember we started our work together in 2008, 2009, and the country was having an economic meltdown at that time. And I really turned to innovation immediately because the resources were not immediately there. So my question was, how am I going to do all these things that I'm ramping up and want to do and get done? And really my answer was innovation. And so what has led from that has become more or less for me a formula that I have followed that has resulted in a lot of important things and changes in my organization and my own work. So I want to share that with everyone today. That's what this book is all about. As I like to say in the preface, it's part golf swing and it's part secret sauce. And I want to go into both the golf swing part, the how-tos, and the secret sauce, the stuff that may not be immediately apparent about innovation and may be the reason we don't turn to it as often in this webinar today. But to start it out, I'd like to read from the foreword that was written by Eric Whitacre. You know, Eric has been an innovator, not only a great composer and conductor, but he's been an innovator in our field. And I asked Eric to write the foreword to this because he had 2 particular innovations that had come to mind for me when I started this book. One was his composition that he did for ACDA called Leonardo Dreams of His Flying Machine. But the other thing that he was working on was the very first virtual choir that most of us ever experienced. And I'd like to read way back to the beginning of that first virtual choir, something that we used to think was sort of a nerdy thing that was a playground, and now it's become sort of a necessity of life for some of us as we continue to think about how we're going to present music. But this is what Eric had to say in the foreword to the book about this innovation. He said, "In May of 2009, a young singer from Long Island named Britlin Losey made a video for me and posted it to YouTube. Britlin had no way of knowing I would ever see the video. We had never met, but she uploaded it anyway and hoped it would find me. A friend saw it, sent me the link, and thus her video, like an electronic message in a bottle, improbably found its way to me. Britlin's video was incredibly intimate and personal. I could see the room she was in. I saw her piano in the background. She had a teddy bear on the piano. She told me how much she loved singing and how deeply my composition, Sleep, had touched her, and that as a way of thanking me, she wanted to give me a gift, and that was the gift that she gave in this video. He says she turned the camera to herself and she said, "This is me singing Sleep for You." She started playing the track on her CD and as an accompaniment and sang the soprano part beautifully. Eric goes on to say, "I was knocked out by the purity of her voice and the immediacy of the video. And in that moment, I was struck by a simple idea. What if 50 people did exactly what Britlin did? What if they sat alone in front of their computers, in their dorms, in their kitchens, and simply sang their respective parts, soprano, alto, tenor, or bass, to the same piece? And what if I collected all those videos and started them at the same time? As long as they were all singing at the same tempo and in the same key, it would almost work like a choir, right? A virtual choir made of individuals who had never met, separated by time and physical space, but united in song." I bet Eric would never call himself a prophet, but ladies and gentlemen, that was a prophetic moment to me that happened way back 10, 12 years ago. I was so excited when I started talking about this webinar. Lo and behold, what pops in my inbox but Britlin saying, "Hey, it's me." And I asked Britlin if she would come on this webinar today, let us meet her and hear about that moment. Britlin, welcome. I'm so excited to hear from you. And thank you for bothering Eric Whitacre and changing his life and changing our life. Let's hear about how it changed your life. Welcome. Tell us about that first experience with Eric Whitacre and that first virtual choir.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. So at that time, I was 17 years old, and just out of the blue, it popped in my mind. I had been singing his music almost every day in my room. I was quite the choir geek in high school, and I would just sing the soprano line all the time. And then it just popped in my head one day. I'd love to send him something, but I don't want to send him something like an actual physical gift. I want to send something that lasts forever. So I thought to myself, all right, I'll sing to him. I did a few takes, but the take I used on YouTube is the first one because I was the most nervous. And I thought that would be the most authentic so that he could see how much he meant to me. So I posted it, and within like 24 hours, I got a message from him saying that he had this idea. And what was crazy is that it was just an idea. And now with Virtual Choir 6, over 10 years later, with over 17,000 singers, my mind is still like, I can't believe that this one little like choir nerd in a room, you know, connected to her idol, and then her idol had this idea and it just blew up. So well, it's
amazing.
Yeah, I would say it definitely promotes the idea of being brave and being bold, no matter what.
Well, you've touched me already with two things. First of all, the power of an idea to change the world. And number two, the fact that this is not an ephemeral world, but you wanted to send something, as you said, that lasts forever. And that's not an ephemeral experience. That is a song. And people say lightweight things about a song, but you decided that was the most important gift that you could give someone. And I just applaud that way of thinking. That really speaks to my soul. Well, how has your life changed now since Eric said, "Hi, Britlin, this is Eric." Tell me what's happened in those 10 years to your life.
I just, music has just become a driving force for me in every single way. I have the same attitude that he basically instilled in me. He told me years ago, if you have a plan B, you'll never follow through with plan A. So what I've learned is that my heart is with composition. So he really taught me from an early age that has to be the most important thing. If it's my heart, I have to follow it no matter what. So he instilled that boldness from the beginning, and now I feel so successful with that mentality because I have a virtual choir of my own. So I've been able to be a leader for the first time, which is very exciting, and to take that kind of position is something I've always wanted, and it's easy as a teacher because it kind of feels almost the same.
That's so cool. Listen, I did a little homework after you and I met quickly, and I found your virtual choir. I'd like to show a little bit of it, if I may. This is a Siren on the Water. Can you tell us just a moment about this piece?
Of course. So I gathered, I have about 350 people who are involved in the choir. We're going to premiere this piece that I wrote for them on World Heart Day, September 29th of this year. This video is just to help them train for their part so that they have something to sing to when they send submissions, but it really is for them.
Let's listen to a little bit of it. I'm going to pick it up where you start conducting here. Beautiful work there. That is fantastic.
Thank you so much. And the people involved in that video are also in the choir, so it's very inclusive.
Well, very good. Britland, you might go to our chat room there, and if you can give people any URL or connection to that video that I just showed, it would be awesome. And also, I also did a little homework about your inner light choir. I'm a choir nerd too, and I'm always looking for new expressions of choir. I think we have an incredible renaissance in terms of choir expressions now and different ways of doing choir. Tell us a second about your inner light choir. I love the name of that, first of all, but what is going on with that? That is, I believe that's your recording forces here, isn't it?
Yes. And a lot of them are here today, which is it makes me so happy that they're here watching. We named it the Inner Light Choir. It was originally like Britland's Virtual Choir because I just thought, okay, that's, a standard name. But then I thought to myself, I want a choir that never changes in regards to its number. Because the one thing a lot of choristers miss is going to their community choir, to church, wherever it is. They know the people. It's the same group the whole year long. And they just learn repertoire with each other again and again. So the concept of Inner Light Choir is we stay our number and we sing various pieces from any composer. I'm just the first one, but we've opened the door to any composer that could use the Inner Light Choir. And we named it that because everyone has a light within themselves, and we kind of want to remind them during this hard time that they have that light.
I love it. Well, congratulations. You're embodying the innovation topic that Alec and I are going to continue with right now. Thank you as a teacher for what you're doing, for a leader for what you're doing. Thank you so much. Let us know if American Choral Directors can ever help in your efforts. And I really appreciate your coming on today. It really lights a fire under me. And now I'm going to tell people what I think about innovation and how I think it can be a great savior for us during this time. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Britland. So inspiring and so innovative. So thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Take care.
Bye.
So Tim, I think the first question is, tell us about the imperative about being innovative. What does that mean? Why is this so important? what is different between perhaps being an entrepreneur? Are you just saying we all just need to be entrepreneurs in what we do? So what does it mean to be innovative, and why?
Yes, thanks, Alec. I think innovation is about solving a problem or answering a need. And it's a people need. That's why it's so important to me. We are focused on people right now and helping people. And I think innovation at the heart is about meeting human needs and meeting human and solving human problems. But what I like about innovation over just the word creativity or even entrepreneurial or other great ideas such as those. And I love all of that area. But what I love most about innovation is that I add to the idea of solving a problem or meeting a need, I add the word in a sustainable fashion. In other words, I can be creative and brainstorm all day with you about ideas and things that could be done, but what's sustainable? What is actually going to stick and actually solve the problem over a period of time? That's what I am more focused on during this time, but also in my own work on a daily basis. I sort of divide my day up into three areas of innovation, frankly. I look at core innovation, the things that I do on a regular basis. That's why we read data and we look at Google Analytics. We look at little things to see what little core changes can I make and bring to solving a problem that will make things better. And then I look at more collaborative innovation about where can I work with somebody else, staff, another person, in order to create something that did not exist before that solves a problem. And then my third area I love is, and it's rare, it's the kind of stuff that Britlin was talking about, it's transformative innovation, real game changers. I think right now we're looking at all three levels of those, but the core of this is it meets a human need. It solves a problem, and it's something that would not have been thought of or was not intuitive, but actually comes to us as we try to solve a people problem. And I think, of course, we're in a world of need right now where, as you and I have said, people are in a world of hurt, as you've said, and this is what we want to do, is solve human problems in a sustainable fashion.
I agree with you. I think it's important not only to think about innovative, but yes, also have to be effective in what you do and how you innovate. And so the two kind of run hand in hand. And I also agree with you, those three different categories is really helpful in thinking about how to innovate, but also keeping in mind that we need to be, or try to be effective. We don't want it to be so pie in the sky as to be unrealistic. But on the other hand, we also want to be transformative in the kinds of things we want to do ultimately, because that's what it's all about. In your book, you talk about having an innovative mindset. And tell us a little bit about what that means in terms of thinking about innovation. Right.
I've really focused in on mindset right now, Alec, particularly in this COVID environment, because there couldn't be a better example right now of what it takes to shift to innovation. And that is not just a momentary, oh, I need a Band-Aid, or I just need to fix something right now. But we're in a moment where we have to make a systemic change in things. And a mindset is my way of working at it, to say, this isn't just about a temporary fix, or this isn't just about a immediate problem solving, but this is a sustainable long-term problem solving effort. And for me, that takes a mindset. It's, you know, a mindset might be just another word for a dashboard, or something that you put in front of yourself all the time and saying, I'm going to take this through this filter or through this net to make sure I'm covering these areas. Because if we don't have a mindset change, we don't have a sustainable possibility of working on things. And I know a lot of people right now are really resisting a mindset change. I feel it. It's palpable. It's like, come on, this will go away and I can get back to what I was doing. And that sort of mindset of this is temporary is really the enemy to me to innovation. We have to think, no, I've got to prepare myself for the excitement of new possibilities and the energy that will come when I problem solve, and the journey of problem solving in order to lead to a new idea. So mindset is the first thing. I would even say in order to be innovative, you really have to have an innovative mindset of saying, I need to think this way in order to get to that point. I raise in the book the problem, we all have it. We sit on committees, we sit with colleagues, we're in a room where someone will say, we've never done it that way before, or, or something that resembles this, I really hate change, something that's like that. And we hear it in conversations. We have names for people like that, not to put any name into a bad category, but we have our Debbie Downers, for example. We have our contrarians. We have our devil's advocates. Well, that's a great role. I won't push back. I won't pressure on my ideas. It's very important, but I don't want them to prevail. What I want to prevail is a mindset of saying possibility, what could be and what could be sustainable. So I have to put mindset first rather than just innovative, because if we don't have a mindset, I don't think we have the environment to really move ahead. So what I do in the book is try to work on an innovative mindset. What does it take to get our heads into that position? For example, in COVID right now, I'm trying to convince everyone that the solutions that we come up with, technology, with virtual distance learning, with the idea of dealing with small groups in synchronous time rather than the large groups, with dealing with new media platforms, as Britlin just showed, that the possibilities of that could be game-changing for us when we do get to be face-to-face again, when we are back in the same room. Every bit of these technologies can actually be added to what we've been doing and enhance it. Now that mindset to me is one of saying, this is not wasted effort. This actually is something that I'm going to be able to use in my ongoing work. I've already found that to be true with my choir that I work with, and I'm hoping it's going to be true in our teaching and in all of our expressions. And I really say to the teachers out there, if you have this kind of mindset, you need to go into the board and go into the room with others and say, look, we have this. We can fix this together. And that is with a new mindset of possibility, of how we can apply these new ideas to teaching music, to performing music, to community building. I love what Britlin said about trying to create community. These are just new ways in a technological age. And if we look at it that way, I had COVID, I did. My wife had it. I will never be thankful that I had it. I mean, that's not true, but I am thankful that I can take this moment to reset myself towards something that could be a really helpful possibility based upon this tragedy and this tough moment that we've just gone through.
I agree with you. What you say is critically important. And I've talked to many choral directors around the country, and they all pretty much have been saying the same sort of message, which is we're not going to go back to strictly how it was before COVID hit. And we need to learn what we can and move and get the most out of this particular moment that we find ourselves in, take the best things out of it and move them ahead, and take advantage of all these amazing new technologies and other platforms that are coming our way to really advance the arts even further in music that we do. So Tim, in your book, you talk about a dashboard for innovation, and the acronym you have is POETIC: people, optimism, experimentation, tension, idea, and collaboration, which together is an acronym spelled POETIC. Can you talk a little bit about each of those elements?
Yes, I struggled with this, all these ideas that I really wanted to become the essence, the sort of genome of what I think is in innovation. And as I was playing with those words and playing with the idea of poetry, it did come together in this acronym or this mnemonic that, and the reason I want to give it as a mnemonic, Alec, is because as a dashboard, we have to have it in front of us all the time. And one of the things that we as choral people have, We think a lot about pitches and rhythms. We think a lot about that. But you know, we would not be a artistic form if it were not for poetry, right? And I wish we, in our training, spent as much time in poetry as we did in pitches and rhythms, because in poetry, we find the imagination of words taking off. We find the synthesis of ideas coming down. And so I like to think of my day with a poetic mindset, Poetic, as you've said. And those words, number one, people. We are focused as choir directors and as ensemble directors, we are focused on the people in our community. In the book, I use Maria Montessori as an example. The breakthroughs that Maria Montessori made is because she thought at the level of the preschool child. She thought the way a child would approach something and looked at solving problems from their perspective. Rather than a theory that I place on children, she looked exactly and studied the child and said, what is the need? So she was people-oriented, and that is exactly how I feel we must be, as my work has to solve human problems. And I think the greatest breakthroughs in our next few years are going to be things that solve human needs. That is, to me, the starting point. So I keep people first, always keep people in mind. Number two is optimism. And it's not blind optimism. I realize that our COVID rate is going up in the country. I am devastated by the same figures that everyone sees on the evening news. But in my leadership style, my leadership work, I have to believe that there's an answer to this issue and there's a solvable solution here. I have to believe it. And every day I wake up, I work on the possibilities, the optimism. I use the example in the book of the Boston Pop's director, who gives us this wonderful, this just fantastic story in his, and let me find it real quick. His name is Benjamin Zander. You've probably seen his TED Talk, but Zander begins one of his TED Talks with this great story. Talks about a person who is in this a developing country in which they send a shoe salesman to open up a new market in a developing country. One shoe salesman writes back and says, "The situation is hopeless. Nobody here wears shoes." The second salesman writes back and says, "Incredible business opportunity. No one here has any shoes." And to me, that really boils down to how are you looking at this situation? If you're giving up from the very beginning saying it's hopeless, or do you say, there could be a way here, there could be a possibility. And again, it's motivated by people, because people have needs. Therefore, I am optimistic that we can find a solution. The third area is experimentation. You know, I love technology. I love watching it, but I don't know about you, Alec, but I've noticed that every app I get, every program I get, is always being updated, right? It's being upgraded. I get, are you ready for an update? Are you ready for an update? Well, the pessimist would say, why didn't you people get it right the first time? How come you're doing all these updates? How come you're doing all these upgrades? But for me, I say, you know, let's put it out there and let's fix it and continue to fix it as we go. They're always in beta mode. And I think if you have an experimental mindset, you're in a beta mode, and you think, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try something. I'm going to try something. Right now, I am pushing people in a world of virtual rehearsals, virtual community building, virtual choir building, virtual ticket sales. And people want to say, I want a solution like the old. We don't know yet. We're only 5 months into this experiment, but we've got to try something. So we're experimenting right now. And I think we're going to go through a season of experimentation. Now, here's the T, and this is the one that breaks it all down. The big T in the middle of poetic is tension. We hit tension either early, middle, or somewhere in the process, we hit tension. And I don't just mean the devil's advocate tension or the pushback tension. I mean change brings conflict. And at some point, you're going to encounter it. And I have some great stories in the book about tension and pushing through tension. But I believe that just on the other side of tension, if you don't give up, you keep pushing through the tension. Just on the other side of tension is the idea, the breakthrough idea that comes through usually collaboration. And anytime you have collaboration, you've got two different areas and they're going to collide somewhere. But you look for those areas of intersection, you keep working on them, and then boom, the idea comes after experimentation and tension. And then, of course, after that, for me, the implementation, as you know, because you've watched and you've worked with me, Alec, the implementation comes with collaboration. I can't do it all by myself. I need others to help me out. And often that means turning to another supplier, another helper, a colleague, some other entity to help me get it done, because I can't know everything. Nobody can, but I need a team. And so what I've been pushing for during COVID is a collaborative team mindset, that we can't do it alone. We need to partner with others somewhere, somehow, in order to get these ideas accomplished. So poetic is my dashboard. It's my mindset. It's really the bulk of what this book is trying to say will get you through. And it's been my formula for the last 12 years. I have to tell you, not everything works. I have had to put some things on the shelf. Some things were breakthroughs. Some things were ahead of their time. Some things were just not right. But that formula has been what carried me through and has really transformed a lot of the way we do things. So I'm a big believer in it. I've tried it. I've test driven it. I'm a frequent flyer, and I want to suggest it for everyone's dashboard, or put it in the front of their music stand, or create a screenshot and put it up there when your computer opens up. But those words will get you through to the innovation idea.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Tim. And again, if anyone has any questions for Tim, we're going to save the last 15 minutes for your questions. So please post them in the Q&A area of which you can find a link to at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So Tim, you talk about the steps in the process of innovation, what you call kind of that golf swing, or the initial kind of setup, the prep work, and then that secret sauce. Yeah. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about those two things.
Right, and forgive me if you're not a golf player. What I'm basically saying, golfers know that there are absolutes you have to do. You have got to keep your head down. You've got to bend your knees. You have to keep your left eye on the ball. You've got to grip with your left. I mean, those are just you got to do this, or that ball is going to go flying off into the weeds somewhere. Those are just basically strategic moves that you have to do in order to get to this process. So what is the golf swing of innovation? The first one I say is you got to do your homework. This isn't just crazy wild ideas. This is based on looking at the facts, gathering the data, going to the internet and finding out answers. I mean, looking at this vast amount of resources that we have in order to do our homework. But you've got to really be able to articulate the challenge and look at what people have tried and other things that have gone before. I'm sure most people do that. I mean, for me, the first thing I do when I am looking at a new challenge is I go buy a book. I mean, I've been doing that. I've got so many of your books on my shelf, Alec, because the very first thing I have to do is I got to go read and see what the experts have said. So the first part of a golf swing is quite naturally, you learn. And what a great day of a time we have right now for finding online learning possibilities. If you can manage online learning yourself, which I think you have to do if you're going to be a leader and innovative. The second area is to gather these facts and data and use all this material to look at human behaviors. What is it about these solutions, and how do you apply them to human behavior? How are people going to actually react to the facts that you're finding? I have found some things work in my environment, some things are not for my environment, but I have to factor in what is the culture that I'm working with. You know, I've been through a lot of consultants, and I love consultants, and I love what they bring to a environment. But one of the things that's rough with consultants is they spend a lot of time having to learn your culture. Well, why do they do that? Because they've got to know the behaviors and whether these ideas would actually work within that culture. So I look at human behavior and see, how do these tools, these ideas, how might they work within my environment? The third thing is to beta test, is to try things, to agree with people that this is not the final solution. I find that a lot of people are divide into type A's and type B's, the people that have to know the answer before you start, and others that are willing to say, well, let's try something out, and if it doesn't work, let's tweak it. So I believe you have to have the latter idea in innovation to say, I can't answer all the questions, but look, I've tried to do my homework, I've tried to apply it, but now we've got to step out and we've got to beta test some ideas here in order to see what might have legs and what may be able to work. And then fourth, I continue to refine. This is why we do surveys. This is why we do follow-up focus groups. This is why we debrief, is to refine the ideas, to never feel like it's finished yet. I'm quite serious about my appreciation of upgrades and updates on programs. I appreciate that the companies are always trying to upgrade and trying to change. Facebook made a change this week. Did it upset me? Yes, it did. But I have to applaud them. They are trying to make their product better. And I believe they do that through a ton of information and reaction that they get from users. I mean, we do that. We have to do that as a mode of operation. So to me, those steps, and then of course, the beta testing aspect that creates and finds the breakthrough, perhaps to the new solution. And then the next thing that I do, and probably the last part of it, is I start using the language that we've developed in our collaborative culture to get to that point. New words, new ideas that came up through the system to say, in other words, to try to make it a new part of my culture, what words or what ideas that we start playing with, that we start using and saying it out loud. To me, those are basically the golf swing aspects. Now, the secret sauce part. That one has been a kind of an amazing breakthrough for me. And it's partially in that tension of the poetic mindset. The secret sauce has been this. When I see that tension is coming, when I begin to get pushback, and when I begin to get resistance, and when I begin to see that people are getting uneasy, that is my first clue, believe it or not, that I am getting close to innovation, is when I start seeing tension. Now, what do most people do? They see tension and they run away from it, right? I mean, I grew up in the South. I'm a Southern boy. I hated tension. I don't like arguments. I didn't like to be around them. It was only when I adopted an innovation mindset that I began to sit back and go, hey, we might be getting somewhere now, because then the ideas start rubbing against each other. And here's the fun part. Tension comes because two ideas or more are rubbing against each other. That is another definition for me of collaboration. The definition of collaboration, Alec, and the way that is different than anything else in the area of dialogue, is when you collaborate with somebody, you create something new. Something that I didn't know, something they didn't know, and it comes from the two of us. It created something new. And I end my poetic mnemonic with collaboration, because that's the one that I found creates something new for me. And that's the sustainable idea of innovation. So for me, the secret sauce is indeed collaboration, coming out of a possible tension environment. I don't want anyone to go into tension on purpose. I'm just saying it's inevitably going to result, and the human nature reaction to tension is to run away from it, go back to bed, turn my head, put the pillow over my head. That's not what you do in innovation. There's a great story, incredible story, by the first female chief of the Cherokee Nation. Her name is Wilma Mankiller. She tells the difference between a buffalo and a cow. Here in Oklahoma, we know a lot about really crazy weather systems. Wilma Mankiller says that the difference between the cow and the buffalo is that when the cow sees that storm coming or that tornado coming in Oklahoma, when a cow sees it, a cow runs away from the storm, goes in the opposite direction. The buffalo sees it, she says, and goes right into the storm. She says, because the buffalo knows the quickest way through a storm is to go right into it and go through it. And she then turns to her audience and says, be the buffalo. I have a ring that I wear. It's a buffalo ring. And often in my meetings, when I see the tension rising and I see, uh-oh, I'm getting ready to go into the storm, I look down at that ring for encouragement. And I remember Wilma Mankiller, be the buffalo. And that's what I turn to, is the buffalo. And I think that's the way to do it, is go through the tension, and on the other side is where that idea probably is waiting for us.
That's great. That's really, really amazing and powerful. So I know in the book you talk about, and you talk about a little bit at the beginning, the three different kinds of innovation. You call them core, adjacent, and transformative. Can you say a little bit more about those three categories?
Yeah, it's almost become like a dashboard for me too, Alec. Is core innovation is the kind of things that we deal with every day, that just make small improvements to those routine tasks that we have to do every day. I believe core innovation is important for us if we're not going to just be the status quo, but if we're going to continually improve, we have to work on core innovation. This morning, before this webinar, I met with my staff, and we talk about core issues. I mean, we start with things like the phone system. We talk about our membership numbers. I read spreadsheets that talk about the kind of revenue issues that businesses have to run on. I look at those very core cells of something as dull as a spreadsheet. But in those, I've got experts in all those areas that work with those numbers every day. And we try to go down into those cells and say, what can we do to improve that, or to tweak that a little bit, or to make that a better? I believe in business, you're either growing or you're dying. I don't believe there's such a thing as status quo. I believe it's either one or the other. And I want to be on the growing side of that continuum. And to me, the only way you really grow incrementally and grow and stay healthy is to do core innovation. The second area, this adjacent innovation, comes with this idea of collaboration that I'm talking about. And I either collaborate with another organization. I can't tell you how many times during COVID I've called the National Association of Teachers of Singing, Chorus America, the Barbershop Harmony Society, the Association of Professional Medical Musicians. I've talked to those people on a regular basis because I'm looking for adjunctive or nearby solutions that someone might have, because they see it through a lens differently than I do. And I reach out to them, and we on our regular calls are talking to each other to see what can we learn and what can we do together. The webinars that we've done with NATS and Chorus America have come as a result of this sort of adjunctive or nearby innovation. And then this third area, transformative, truly game-changing. Things like that are like changing your name of your website, or changing the name of a company, or as many companies have done right now, they've had to do this pivot to change the product that they're delivering. They cannot deliver the same product that they were doing before. In order to stay alive, they need transformative innovation, and they've really looked deep to that area. So the way I divide my own work is I spend about, honestly, 70% of my time with core innovation, spreadsheets, cells, small number, data, tweaking little things. Then I spend about 20% of my time talking to other organizations, other individuals, trying to find ways that I can improve my work based on things they've found or things that we could do together. And then a small 10% of my time, I'm working on game-changing ideas, things that really might completely turn the thing around. And those actually often come through collaboration as well, but sometimes they come through me seeing a need that is really a 180 need that needs to happen, a full turnaround need. And of course, those are the riskiest. Those are risky. The middle ground is less risky. The core innovation, hardly risky at all. So there is risk that goes in each one of those levels, and it goes higher depending on the level of change that you're looking at. But I talk in the book about how to mitigate those risks and how we actually go down those roads without completely hurting ourselves as we try to think about the risk factor as we look at innovation.
I think that's right, but I also think you can't just do one. You know, if you only did the core innovation, it's not enough, right?
Right.
You need to do all three. You need to balance all of that. That's really, really important.
Yeah.
Okay, you also talk about pillars, foundational pillars for building an innovative mindset. That's in your chapter 6. maybe you could just talk for a little bit about that, and then we'll open it up to questions. You, again, if you have questions for Tim, please go ahead and enter them into the Q&A section of your of the chat bar, and we'll go ahead and ask those questions of Tim in just a second.
Yeah, the pillars are some of these guiding ideas. I almost could call them the virtues, you know, the things that just undergird everything that I'm talking about. You might call them assumptions, but what I mean by pillars is the ideas that all of this rests upon. And one of my favorite movies was Apollo 11. You remember that movie with, was it Tom Hanks? I can't remember right now, but it was the idea of going into space, and this is where that famous line, Houston, we've got a problem, comes into play. They had to change the filtration system because oxygen was running out on the spaceship, and they were running out of oxygen, and they had to use the materials on board in order to fix the spaceship. And so they scurried into a room to see what was actually there that they had at their disposal. I remember they pour out a bunch of stuff that looks like a little tube of ventilation, something that looked like duct tape, you know, a bunch of things, and say, gentlemen, we've got to basically fit a square peg into a round hole. We've got to, and of course, what I love about that scene is they were trying to save lives. It was all motivated by people. But what doesn't necessarily come out immediately is, if you look at those guys in those rooms, those weren't just a bunch of guys like me. Those guys were physics guys. Those guys were engineers. Those guys had spent their lifetime training for this area. So my point is this: one of the pillars of innovation is the assumption that we've been training for a long time to solve these problems. We know a lot about quarter notes, eighth notes. We know a lot about harmony. We know a lot about people. We've dealt with a lot of people to make our ensembles work. So we have a lot of expertise underneath us already. We have to realize that we got a ton of knowledge going into this, and it can't be done by just anybody. That's why I say I have a problem with some consultants, because they have to learn my culture, and I don't know that I have time for them to learn my culture. And I think we know the culture, and we have these basic skills that we've been working on for a long time. I think another pillar of this that I have as an assumption is that we want to do good, that we have an ethic of doing good. Innovation to me is about doing good. And I think that I use the word ethics there because that's what I think ethics is. It's about doing good. And I think underneath this is we have a desire to help our people. So I think that's a pillar for me that kind of goes into this. And I believe everyone listening to this webinar would not be here if they didn't have this underneath the foundational pillar of trying to do good for people. And then I think the third thing that I have as a preparation is just the idea of we have to prepare for innovation. We really have to have going back to my mindset, is that we got to want to do this. We have to want to. Everything in my life that's ever called for some discipline like this, that has come at a price. I know that whenever I've ever been on try to lose my COVID-19, if I want to lose my COVID-19 pounds, it means a discipline. It means I got to do something differently. To think differently, you have to do something different. And I think you have to prepare for that mindset. And that's a tough one for many of us right now, because we're still almost in the shock of it. But right now, we're all facing the fall. We're facing school years. We're facing things are coming. Something's coming back. Students are coming back, choirs want to come back. So we have got to do that wake up and prepare now to do it. And for me, that means a new skill set. And it also means this whole new idea of a new collaborative team set. So those are basically the pillars that I'm working with, that I have to adjust myself to. And I also, going back to optimism, I think it can be an optimistic time. I know we're not prepared for it. I know I didn't have the skills to make a virtual choir until recently. I know I had to go to school to do it. This little microphone here, I didn't know what a Yeti mic was. I didn't know why I needed a ring light that's shining on my forehead right now. these are all new toys, new skill sets that I had to learn, but I really believe they're going to make me better. So to me, those are the pillars that I'm looking toward that really undergird everything here.
Great. Thanks so much, Tim. Okay, time for questions. Again, please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A box. Question from Janet about seeing a lot of folks in her community choir and her churches kind of with a stuck mindset, that it's really hard to get them to do anything more than just baby steps. Do you have any thoughts or ideas about how to move people from that kind of stuck area and to seeing kind of the bigger picture and why we need to do more than just those little baby steps?
Well, first of all, I don't want to bash those people, and I'm sure Janet doesn't either. We realize that's the first reaction is, I don't want to do this. It's what I said about change, about tension. I don't want to do this. But what I want to say is go to that's the first tension that you're going to look at. They're going to say, I don't want to do it. Don't be beaten down by that. Please, please don't. Go ahead and say, we can do this. What I'm doing with my choir, Alec, is we're having a retreat this Saturday morning on Zoom, but we're having a retreat this Saturday, and we're going to be looking at the different demographics in my choir, the people that are like, let's do this. The people that are like, okay, if we have to. The other people said, no, you know what, I'm going to sit out this year. You know, we've got all those same demographics. And don't just say it's old and young, anyone. Please, it's not just old and young. It's not that. It's all across the board. And we're looking at how can we give community at those different levels. What if someone does want to sit out this year? I still want to create community for them, and I don't want them to go away. We're going to look at how can we continue to keep them in the community, even if they don't want to go down this learning curve. We've got other people that may need some help to get on with the technology part of this, as how we're going to rehearse online. I am going to be deputizing some section leaders, training them to help me bring people along. So I guess my biggest answer to that, Alec, is not let that first tension of, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. Don't let that weigh you down, because we as leaders have to be the buffalo. We really have to go through the storm.
I agree with that too. And one of the things that I found is really helpful in some of the larger boards and organizations I've been a part of, where you have so many different aspects of what you need to do. You have building membership, you have building sense of community, you have skills, you have technology. Maybe even if you have a larger ensemble, maybe split it up into different working groups and empower them. You know, one of the cool things about Zoom is you can break it up into different groups and you can do breakout meetings, whatever. Empower them to talk together around their area, come up with specific ideas, and then bring them back to the full group at the end and share what those ideas are. And it kind of gets you on the record and gets these different groups on the record of the new things that they want to try and do. And then you can kind of follow up with them. Well, where are you with that? Or what did you need to do about that? What did you think about that? Or get other ideas from different members as they kind of share. And it brings up that sense of collaboration that's really important, but it also just empowers everyone to think innovatively, to say what they want to do publicly, and then that helps the commitment side as well. So that's a great technique I found that helps with that.
Very good.
So we have a question about what happens, this is from William Zinn, about what ideas are surfacing to maintain a choral experience for communities and individuals with limited access to technology?
Yes.
You know, it's a terrible reality that some folks just don't have access to the technology.
Well, let me go so far as to dare to say they probably have a phone. And I would say let your least common denominator be, or greatest common denominator, be the phone. It's hard to imagine in this day and age that someone doesn't have a phone. And I'd say if that's your basic delivery system, start there. Okay, start there. I'm also very working really hard in an innovative idea right now, and that is some packets. I'm trying to create, you all know the Stitch Fix phenomenon of where I don't have to go to the store anymore and buy clothes. I have a personal designer who actually decides, actually this shirt came from Stitch Fix, okay? This is someone who has figured out the kind of clothes that I wear, sends me a box of it. I either keep it, buy it, send it back, okay? Postage free, Stitch Fix. No commercial for Stitch Fix. I'm just saying that innovation led me to thinking, what if I could do Stitch Fix for my choir? In other words, a cute little box that arrives each week that has messages from Tim, stuff from Tim, things to help those people move on down the road. I think they would actually look forward to getting their little fix from me on the choral. But you know what? That couldn't be more analog in any design, but what a wonderful thing that could be for people. Now you say, I got 100 people in my choir. I'm not going to accept that you have 100 people that can't get onto some of this technology, but there may be some that is the right solution for. I believe we have to do differentiated learning right now, Alec. I don't think this is, one of the reasons we're moaning the loss of what we had was it was a one-size-fits-all scale. I could go into the room, stand on a podium, bark out ideas, and 100 people heard me and they went home. Well, now, now I have to differentiate this with different types. Isn't that a better idea than the one size fits all? It was scalable. We got to find new ways to scale what we do. And I appreciate what that person's saying is that not all people have the technology skills or the equipment to do it. But I believe, you know what? I believe we can get them there in a short amount of time, but you really have to scale it in a way that makes sense. And I'm telling everyone this, do less. I'm the kind of guy that one year did Bach's B minor Mass, Christmas oratorio, motets and cantatas in the same year with my oratorio chorus. You know what? This year may be the year that I don't actually do all that. Yeah, maybe I have to pull it back some, but that's okay. We'll learn to crawl and then we'll learn to walk. And then if we have to run in this environment, we'll run,
Great. Thanks, Tim. So we have a question from Dr. Richard Lopez. Hello, Rick. Can you recommend a program, app, or platform to produce a virtual choir performance, or where they can go perhaps to get those resources or to learn about those sorts of things?
Yeah, my go-to place right now is called My Choral Coach. It's created by a company called Match My Sound. You guys can Google them, My Choral Coach, Match My Sound. I've worked with them directly to create a program that we have offered to American Choral Directors members. It's only $50 right now, but it costs actually more than that, but they're doing it to help us get people on the fast track. And what it does, Alec, is that it allows people to, first of all, rehearse by part. We can put the music in that we want them to rehearse. I can assign the parts to each section, and then through using Zoom, they can record their part, they send it back to me, and then using other software, I can create those videos that they send back to me and mix them into a easy virtual performance. Now, what you saw Britland doing was a little bit more advanced. I love what she was doing because she was moving into other media sources, but since then, I've found free, available, shared source pictures and movies that I can use right now that have no copyright issues to actually enhance some of that production so that I'm not just looking at squares like you and I are looking at now, but we start seeing some production value. But I wouldn't suggest that to anybody at first. Right now, if you go to My Choral Coach, which is the parent company is Match My Sound, there actually is a Zoom feature that you can start creating virtual choir performances from that. Is it a quick learning curve? No. It's going to take you a little bit of time, but it's the simplest way that I know to do it. Now, there are other ways to do it. Cora Moore has a wonderful full page that Troy Robertson has shown how to do a virtual choir. I noticed on Britland's website, she has how to do a virtual choir, but those require a few more steps. This My Choral Coach is actually fewer steps than anything that I've seen. And that's what that's my go-to for right now. And I'm doing a Beethoven Mass in C right now. And we're planning on doing a virtual performance of that.
And I should mention too that GIA and Walton have put up over 300 choral works into My Choral Coach. So we're happy to participate. It's really honestly a way to give back. We don't, we think that it's a new technology. It's worth exploring and learning from. And we're kind of taking a plunge and giving it a shot and trying to give back in this moment of COVID to the choral community for sure. And we're also working, that's really also for church and community choirs, college choirs. There are other solutions now we're working on for the K-12 area as well. So stay tuned for that.
Thank you for doing that, Alec, by the way. I appreciate that very much.
So So there is one question I've seen from an anonymous person about the delays and the lack of the latency that we experience in these types of Zoom calls, and there's some innovation I think happening to lower those latency issues. And do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I believe we're probably a month away from some latency solutions. Right now, it's absolutely a problem. I believe before October, we're going to see some solutions out there. I'm privileged to some of that thinking. I don't want to say it yet because it gives false hope and it creates a kind of a stampede. But right now, I can promise you it is not available yet. I believe when it does come available, there'll be some technological requirements that you have to do in order to solve it. So right now, latency is an issue. We don't have solutions for it. And for folks that haven't encountered that, that basically means if I had 4 people trying to sing at the same time using Zoom or anything else, there's going to be a delay which causes complete chaos. There's a reason we have quarter notes and eighth notes and rhythm, and that is to keep us together. And latency does not allow that to happen. Now, there are some cute things like singing in the pentatonic scale where you can't do anything wrong, singing rounds. There are ways, call and response. There are ways to keep people singing and activities that really dodge latency. But the idea of recording 12 voices and singing at the same time, that is not available to us yet. I do believe there's hope on the horizon, though.
That's great. Okay, believe it or not, we're already at the end of our hour together. The time went really quickly. I want to thank you, Dr. Tim Sharp, for sharing these amazing thoughts and ideas. I think it's very inspiring to hear and learn from you. And again, just want to let everyone know that I did post into the chat a link to the book and to the coupon code for 10% off. And I know that acda.org, the website for ACDA, there's some links there for contact information for you, Tim. And of course, here at GIA, we're always happy to help out and answer any questions as well through our customer service email address. And just again, thank you all for participating. Look forward to continuing the conversation and thinking about how we can all continue to be innovative in this incredible moment that we find ourselves in. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alec.
All right, take care.